Hey, it's Talon. Just thought I'd make a video going over Game & Watch's Nair, since there's a lot of common mistakes I've seen built into players' game plans for the past 4 years. Now that I'm doing coaching on Saturdays, I want to be able to get a sort of preliminary coaching guide out. That way, anyone who sends me VODs can avoid these same mistakes, and anyone who wants to understand Game & Watch's Nair, either trying to play against it or with it, can have a better idea of what they're doing. First, I'll go over the input of the Nair. What you're essentially trying to do is you're trying to limit the last hit, right? Like that. So that hit pops people up, and it kind of lets you combo on reaction, which is really, really important. So the way I'm doing that there, and I'll just go frame by frame so you guys can watch it, is I dash forward, I tap jump, I let go of the left stick for a second, and then when I'm in the air, I press A for Nair, and then I go back to holding forward. And then as I reach the top of my jump, I arc the stick down, and that lets me land perfectly with the last hit. So now that I've shown you the input for Nair, I'm going to show you their basic combo routes, because they're fairly simple for the most part, and you can just kind of worry about the optimizations later. The general idea is that you Nair until you can no longer Nair, and then you up air until you can no longer up air, and then you finish off with an up B if you can, right? And that kind of looks like this. And this will work at most percents, like, you do something like that, and then you finish off with up B, right? So that's the general idea. So the reason Nair feels so oppressive against a really good Game & Watch is just how many options it covers. By doing this sort of overshoot Nair, you're already covering a jump in, you're covering a short hop, you're covering the dash dancing, and you can overshoot it to catch a dash back or a roll. The other oppressive aspect of Nair is just how safe on shield it is. If you do it correctly, it's -4, which makes it not shield grabbable by the entire cast. You can see how that's pretty safe. That's really important because even at top level, you'll watch Meister spot dodge a lot of top players' grabs. Because it's very ingrained into players to think that Nair isn't as safe as it actually is. The other part of Nair on shields you can kind of cross up. And this threatens a lot of characters because most characters don't have great out of shield options behind them. So a lot of players tend to roll in right after this, letting you sort of like get an overshoot Nair in the other direction. In Game & Watch's overall game plan, Nair sort of works as a conditioning tool, where you start out Nairing and you watch what they do to try and beat it. Different characters have different options for this. Some characters have very good out of shield, some characters have good disjoints to beat it out with, and others try and whiff punish it. Against characters with really good out of shield, you can kind of work around their shield a little bit. You might be able to like land with a fair to mix them up, you might drift back a little bit to bait it out, you might even air dodge it in certain cases. Or you can just kind of space and try to work around it like that. Against characters with disjoints, it's very dependent on which disjoint they try to beat it out with, right? Like for Joker, if they try to F-tilt a lot, you might be able to like whiff punish it, maybe like go from above them, something like that. If it's a sword character using like an landing aerial, you might be able to run up shield it and grab them, or run up shield parry it and punish them like that. And it just largely depends on your opponent and what they like to beat it out with. What tends to be the hardest way to punish Nair is by whiff punishing, and the reason why this is so difficult is not just because of the low lag, but also just how unsure you are about where the Game & Watch is going to land. Game & Watch's airspeed is a little bit weird, where it has a really high base acceleration. I mean, you can change directions fairly fast in the air, from what I understand. This kind of gives them like weird movement patterns that kind of feel off to somebody playing them for the first time. Kind of like lets them move like almost like this diagonally. But what's important to his Nair is that it lets him do this, or it lets him do this. And you can kind of have to guess like between which of these two spots he's going to land at. A small side note is that really good air acceleration is why a lot of Game & Watches will do this at higher levels, and lower level Game & Watches will do this. Because his dash attack feels like his best first option until you have really good Nair habits. I want to expand a little bit on the full hop Nairs I was talking about earlier. They just let you come from above really, really well. And the reason you'd want to do them is mainly if they're using some sort of long-range horizontal disjoint that puts them in lag. Joker's gun's a really good example. And this is why you'll see a lot of Game Watches start off just doing this, doing that. Because that just gives them a really good punish, it's fairly safe, it's just such a common option at the start of a round, that sort of thing. It's also worth noting that different top-level Game & Watches have different ideas of how they should abuse the full hop angle. I've noticed Meister does a lot more full hop fairs, and Maya does a lot more full hop Nairs, so they're just better in different situations and have different positives and negatives. So I just wanted to mention that real fast. The other aspect of it is at higher percents, a lot of game launches will do something like this. And that can work, but I'd highly recommend against it for the most part. It's a very nuanced move, right? It's very much dependent on a situation, and I don't use it very much. I'd say about once every 5 or 6 games, right? So if you find yourself making it a cornerstone of your game plan, you should probably reconsider. If you're having a hard time killing, it's not because you're relying too little on a gimmick kill confirm, it's probably because your advantage state sucks and you need to throw people off stage and get better at baconing. That's all I wanted to talk about, so thank you guys for stopping by and for watching until the end. I hope this helps some of you, and I would love to see you guys in my free coaching sessions on Saturdays on my Twitch stream. Have a great night, everyone.